You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WYPC.
WCYTV
Here on the Daily Signal.
Good evening and welcome to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated first on 93 WIBC. It's good to be with you here on this fine end of the week. We've got a lot to cover, and wouldn't you know that good old Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut, he's here with the absolute best of the best. And by that, I mean he has announced that after Jimmy Kimmel's removal from television by Nexstar, he wants people from his lofty perch in Connecticut to take to the streets. Incredible stuff. Chris Murphy, ladies and gentlemen.
Stephen Colbert is gone. Jimmy Kimmel is gone now. You need to see what is happening right now. It is the systematic destruction of free speech in this country. It is Donald Trump using the power of the White House, in this case, the power of his regulatory agencies, to try to shut down. And
to shut down? What is he trying to shut down, Chris?
Speech that opposes him understands the gravity of this moment. This is a moment for the country to mobilize. This is a moment for all of us to be out on the streets protesting, because if you don't raise your voices right now about the assault on free speech, about Donald Trump's decision to disgustingly exploit the murder of Charlie Kirk so as to try to permanently render powerless and impotent those who politically oppose him, there may be no democracy to save a year from now.
Oh, here we go. No democracy left to say. I've heard this one before.
This is a red alert moment, man.
A red alert moment. Oh, wow. Red alert indeed.
Feels like the red alert has been on since January, but the days are getting darker, which means the obligation on us to stand up and mobilize is getting more urgent.
Okay. Interesting indeed. Now, a lot of people rushed to the streets and, protest. In fact, there were like a whopping 12 people who came out to protest in Hollywood for Jimmy Kimmel. We'll get to those very sad, elderly, suburban people in just a moment, though, because first, I want to talk to you about the other taking to the streets. Immigration Customs Enforcement today put boots to butts in Chicago because, people wouldn't get out of the way and let federal officers uphold federal law. Check it out.
Back up, back up.
So here I have an individual who is blocking traffic on the street. You're not allowed to do this, by the way. This is not a protected protest. That's not how that works.
I'm backing up. What on you?
So immediately after the vehicle gets out of the way, he has to play super duper tough man. Again, every single Democrat rioter is the exact same. And by the way, the reason that we on this show and as the Daily Signal are using the term rioter, the moment that you as a protester violate the law, the moment that you in some way, shape, or form endanger others by nature of your protest, you have become a riot. Especially if you're fighting with law enforcement. Yeah, that kind of crosses over the line. So as soon as he gets out of the way of the van, he then plays all tough guy, and he's got his Gatorade clutched in one hand. Like Jussie Smollett, I almost expected to see the Subway sandwich in the other. And he gets all tough guy with the officer. I was like, just get back. And then he I don't know, did you see that? He did a little like, hey, see, you want to roll the fish? See, I'll give her the old Chicago 1-2. And I mean, these protesters are just goofballs. They become rioters because they believe that if they knock a few things over, then the federal agents will just lay down and walk away. This, again, by the way, moving through more nonsense and fisticuffs.
What the is wrong with you, idiot? What the is wrong with you?
Fantastic. Again, the Democrat strategy here to go all in against federal immigration customs enforcement officials in Chicago is not going to play how they think it's going to play. And by the way, the violence did escalate to the point where federal agents ended up using tear gas and rubber bullets, sting pellets, things like that. Here you go. By the way, sorry, we have sped this footage up because, well, the van comes out, and it is funny. The high-pitched whistle you're about to hear is from us speeding the video up, so sorry in advance.
When Alvin and the Chipmunks attempt to raid an ICE facility.
So there goes a few of the stinging pellets, and the first canister of tear gas is getting ready to come down. Guy runs in. He gets tackled because he assaults federal officers. Another keffiyeh-wearing dress and, you know, a nice little head scarf there going on. She runs up with her leather bag and then decides maybe not. Excellent. I truly, every little bit of this is just hilarious to me because with Antifa being designated a terrorist organization correctly, individuals who participate in violent protests toward the police are in fact going to get their just desserts. You cannot prevent federal agents from upholding federal law. You cannot do it. If an IRS individual is coming to talk to someone suspected of committing tax fraud, you cannot impede the IRS official, no matter what you feel about the IRS, from upholding federal law. You just can't do so. It is why assaulting a member of the post office, the Postal Service, is a very, very extreme charge. Now, from that point forward, we get to a couple of the special officials. Because Democrats have discovered that this is a great way to get 15 minutes of fame, to show how in touch with the youths they are. And that brings us to Kat Abigazela. Now, I'm not going to try to spell Kat Abigazela, but she is some kind of former journalist from Media Matters and Mother Jones. So she's real special. And she's running for Congress in Illinois' 9th. Now, to be clear here, I find this one a little bit interesting. A little bit interesting that she decided to show up to a protest as it was starting to turn into a riot and getting violent, blocking traffic. What happens next is amazing. An ICE agent picks her up because, again, she's obstructing traffic. She is violating the law, and plants her on her behind. So Kat Abigazela, the Democrat candidate for the 9th Congressional, she's right there in the center of the screen, and she is being pushed away by an ICE officer. She then tries to wrestle the ICE officer. Bold move. And then boom, right onto her butt. The rioters then start chanting shame because that's really all they've got in this particular instance. I love that. I also love that because this is her campaign ad that she put on X not too long ago.
Donald Trump and Elon Musk are dismantling our country piece by piece. And so many Democrats seem content to just sit back and let them.
But not Kat. Kat doesn't just sit back and let them. She lets ICE officers force her to sit back. I also love the keffiyeh hanging up the little scarf in the edge of the shot there. Fantastic. Amazing. She is already whining about this on X. Now, I'm sorry, producer Nick, I can't let this go. I cannot let such brilliant advocacy and activist goodness. I can't just let this one go. So here you go. Here is Kat Abigazela one more time.
And his name is John C.
God bless our ICE officers. I do. It's truly, truly excellent. It's fantastic for a lot of reasons. But this brings us to some of the other Democrat officials. Again, I'm not really sure going into the 2026 election if committing felonies is the move. Just open braggadocious felonies. So the mayor of Evanston, according to Julio Rosas over at The Blaze, he was on the show yesterday reporting just after a stint in Chicago. He said, quote, "I believe that this guy right here is Evanston Mayor Daniel Biss, a Democrat, of course, taking part in blocking the driveway for an ICE facility in Broadview, Illinois. He was there last week doing the same thing." Not only the mayor of Evanston, by the way, that's going to come up again when we start to talk about Northwestern University. here pretty soon. There's some, court things to finish up in the first-rate radio crew. We got to send you over to the commercial. We're going to continue on the live stream. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. All right, there is one other guy who was apparently there. There's no footage of him there, but his name is Andre Vasquez, and he is a Chicago alderman. And he is so excited about his, I don't know, like, again, they want their 15 minutes of fame out of this so bad. Here he is on the news just bragging that he committed a felony.
We were kind of on the front line of it as a vehicle was coming. And so we were looking to block the vehicle. It still kept driving, almost ran over someone. And at that point, we started seeing the pellets. So it was tear gas, it was pepper spray, a little mix of both. So you could feel it even under the mask and start coughing and like start, spitting out and get everything. So
you had a mask on at the time?
Yeah, so even through the mask, you can feel it. Like right now, I can still feel a little burn in the eyes, back of the neck, just because of the chemicals themselves. And then just, I was able to walk, clear my head a little bit, then grab water. One, to take care of myself, but then make sure other people were okay.
I personally don't believe that it would be a super smart idea to go out and just admit to blocking traffic, to committing a felony, to doing really stupid stuff. I wouldn't do that. Personally, I won't. And by the way, not because I have any issue admitting things. For example, in the pre-stream portion of the show, someone asked, hey, is Erica Kirk Catholic? And I said, no, she's Catholic. Yeah. Doesn't take that much. Charlie, not Catholic. Yours truly, not Catholic. Erica Kirk, Catholic. Now, again, just admitting things, not a problem. But alas, here we have CBS Chicago informing their viewership that there are snipers on the roof. This is not honest journalism. I'm not quite sure why they're stoking the fear in this particular instance, but this CBS affiliate, no, not good.
I want to get to some breaking news in Broadview right now. An ICE agent armed with what appears to be some sort of gun stands on top of the immigration processing facility in that suburb as protests against ICE escalate this morning. Now, this comes about an hour after agents first clashed with protesters this morning.
Hey there, Dana. Good morning to you right now. This is probably the calmest that it's ever been all morning. They are
immediately right to it's really calm and mostly peaceful here right now. Right after there's like, hey, there's snipers on the roof. He's got a gun on the roof. Not how you report the news in that kind of an instance. Not smart. And then immediately when they cut to the ground, it's, hey, everything's really calm and peaceful here. Nothing's wrong. Please don't, please nobody hurt me here in the crowd. By the way, the reason that ICE might in fact have individuals on the roof watching the crowd is because in Portland, for the last month, the Immigration Customs Enforcement Facility has been under siege directly by, and the group has publicly owned this, Antifa. Here you go. Can't imagine why they'd want somebody on the roof over that. I too am shocked. I know, I'm amazed. By the way, just because I enjoy these particular after-action bits of news, here are some of the arrests at the end of the day. Every day, there's a new slate of arrests made, and the participants may surprise you.
No official word yet on how many individuals were arrested by ICE agents today, but among those taken into custody, according to ICE spokespeople, was a 37-year-old alleged gang member. Among those arrested is Aldo.
Love the look on the face there. Incredible.
Salazar Bahena, who, according to Homeland Security spokespeople, was convicted of murder in 2005. More recently, prison officials allegedly refusing to honor an ICE detainer request. Bahena released from Stateville prison just 4 days ago, according to ICE, before agents arrested him yesterday in Elgin.
Wait a minute. So this gang member that had like a lot of violent charges was just let out of prison 4 days ago?
Is that face he's making, oh no, I just took too much drugs, or oh no, the drugs just wore off?
I'm still stuck on the idea they let this guy go and then they picked him up 4 days later. Incredible. We got to pick the radio crew back from commercial. Don't go anywhere. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast. We have got something special for you. We got a circus. Now, look, producer Nick, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't care for the circus. I don't care for the zoo. I get a lot of flack for that. I don't really care for those kind of public animal-based events or watching someone bend themselves into really weird pretzels. And that's because that's my job every day. I watch the circus and the zoo on C-SPAN all the time. I'm talking about Congress. So we've got some of the best goofball, goober, goofiest, your tax dollars. And by the way, none of these clips are old. I wish they were. I wish we had to recycle moments of your representatives and senators in the House and the Senate acting like complete fools. But alas, we have got Chris Murphy back again, flanked by other Democrats suggesting that the country's over. The little selfie video he did of himself, no, the country has ended. We all need to panic.
Last night, they showed us exactly how serious they are. Trump's FCC forced a major network to pull a loud Trump critic, Jimmy Kimmel, off the air, essentially saying that any media actor that doesn't say what Trump wants them to say about Charlie Kirk or Trump's policies is going to be silenced.
Wow. Incredible. Oh, man. Amazing how the ABC and Nexstar executives are on the record making those kinds of plans to get rid of Kimmel before Trump or Brendan Carr even mentioned it. Wow. You know, someday I will be as clairvoyant as these Nexstar executives are, I guess, at least as Chris Murphy alleges them to be. Also, Stephen Colbert kicked off the air because Trump hated him so much that he's on the air for like 8 or 9 more months. Whoa.
That's censorship.
It's censorship because Nexstar was like, wow, Kimmel's losing us even more money than Colbert lost for his network. Wow, I mean, he's getting lower ratings. That's censorship.
That's state speech control. That's not America. Trump is making it 100% clear that he is going to ramp up his efforts to use the power of the federal government to harass and punish his critics, not because they're supporters of political violence. They are not, but because...
Oh, not supporters of political violence. Yeah, they haven't gone out there and called protests and that turn into riots and then turn into burning down Minneapolis and Kenosha. They didn't call that mostly peaceful. They didn't call individuals with whom they have political disagreements fascists and Nazis that are coming to kill you. You know, they didn't, provoke that kind of violence over the last 10 years.
Because they have the audacity to openly oppose his policies. This is a standard format for every budding despot.
The standard format for every budding despot. Ah, yes, this is just like Kristallnacht. Yeah, just like the Night of the Long Knives. Just like the October Revolution. It's true. Amazing. I'm flattered to be watching this in real time with the rest of you. By the way, the allegation does roll around a comment that Trump made on Air Force One about some negative coverage that he's received. And we talked about this a little bit on Top News in 10, but it has turned into a bit of a bigger story. So first of all, here is the Trump comment in question.
Mr. President, are you going to ask Brendan Carr to weigh in on other late night hosts that you have said should be off the air?
Late night host is on network television. There is a license. I'll give you an example. I read someplace that the networks were 97% against me. I get 97% negative, and yet I won it easily. I won all 7 swing states, popular, I won everything. And if they're 97% against, they give me only bad publicity or press. I mean, they're getting a license. I would think maybe their license should be taken away. It will be up to Brendan Carr.
Okay, so what he said is very, very different than what was covered, and I will explain why. I immediately noticed that 97%. I will yet again take out the Tony Kinnett was right jar. I'm sorry for my ego. I will plant it here, put another coin in, because I was like, that 97% number, oh yeah, that's from the Media Research Center, our friends over at Newsbusters, Media Research Center, who have noticed that in the last couple of months, especially when covering natural disasters and things like crime, various news outlets have painted incidents that have nothing at all to do with the president's administration as an opportunity to slap Trump with it. So if there's a natural disaster, they'll say, oh, it's climate change, and Trump, doesn't believe in climate change policy. Or, oh, well, there's this horrible crime. Well, it's probably because Trump was mean to transgender people. Or, oh, well, actually the crime doesn't exist. Or people like getting stabbed. That kind of coverage. That's from the Media Research Center has compiled that together. Trump makes the case, look, if we're giving out FCC licenses, then, maybe because it is, if you are on Spectrum station, for example, if I cover a crime and I lie about the crime, the radio stations that choose to syndicate our show are liable for me lying knowingly about a crime. Now, that's a little bit of a different picture than what was painted in when Chuck Schumer covered this, because the USA Today article says Trump suggests the FCC should consider revoking TV licenses over negative coverage of him. Now, that's really framing the headline really specifically there, bud. Jake Tapper covered this by slandering the MRC. A bold choice for sure. Here you go.
The president there saying about TV news networks, because he doesn't like what they report, maybe their license should be taken away. Now, we should note first that this 97% figure is wrong. It's
amazing. By the way, you're more than welcome to disagree with Trump for making that suggestion. And by the way, I'm someone who thinks the FCC should not be issuing licenses ever at all for any reason. I think the FCC should do two things. Number one, it should be a statistics organization, like back when the Department of Ed was the Office of Ed. And then number two, the FCC should be involved in making sure that pirated signals, for example, from foreign nations are not in the United States. And that over broadcasting, actual crimes and violations regarding communications on Spectrum, that should be the regulations that are upheld. But Tapper going after MRC and saying they make up their numbers, no, their editors are a lot more strict with the MRC Newsbusters team than mine are with me.
actually 92%. And
I'm sorry, I'm going to back up and let him say that again. That's a wild correction.
away. Now, we should note first that this 97% figure is wrong. It's actually 92%.
Ah, yes. See, actually, it's not 97% of reports are negative about the president's administration. It's only 92. So, like, it's bad, but it's not, like, extra super bad. It's just, like, pretty bad.
And that figure comes from a non-scientific, frankly, non-credible analysis done by a far-right pro-Trump group looking at the NBC, CBS, and ABC evening news broadcasts. So
that's done by someone who's extra awful and terrible and fascist, and I don't like them, and they said I smell bad. Yeah.
They didn't pay Dr. Fauci to run the numbers.
What the heck does scientific have to do with any of that?
He is the science.
I'm sorry. Again, both of us with our science degrees. Again, I'm afraid I'm not quite seeing the angle. What are you supposed to run? Like long-term temperature average analyses on whatever CBS news report is this evening?
They just had a dartboard with numbers.
They mentioned the element helium. Did you know that helium has 2 protons? Back to you, Jake. Incredible. Radio crew, we got to send you back to your unscientific commercial coverage. We'll be back with our very scientific coverage here in a second. It's the Tony Kinnett cast over on the live stream. Just a couple of extra points here that are truly, truly precious. Chuck Schumer, in citing this USA Today article, said, and I quote, "What Trump said is a bleeping outrage. It's against democracy. If Donald Trump has his way on this, our democracy is over." Okay. I would love to remind Democrats for the 80th time, just because you add a swear word in front of what it is you are saying, it does not magically make A, you a brave individual, or B, what you are saying true.
Scientifically, it does.
Scientifically. Science has proven. Scientists at UC Berkeley have done their analysis that saying the F word or the other spicy sentence-enhancing words don't actually make you any more intelligent. There was an entire SpongeBob episode about this, where SpongeBob learns curse words, which are essentially dolphin noises, and He calls them sentence enhancers. Democrats watched that episode of SpongeBob and decided that was like a series of instructions.
Somebody call Mythbusters.
Somebody call them. Get Jamie and Adam out here right now. Incredible. I'm amazed. So as we do continue on, I would like to encourage the entirety of the internet not to be like Chuck Schumer. Because when he's not complaining about this, when he's not complaining about the FCC, he's complaining about yet another Republican budget continuing resolution. And old Chuckles, he's got the solution. He's going to shut it down. I've heard this threat so many times.
You can see this federal vehicle.
Sorry, wrong clip there. Chuck Schumer is not in any federal
Chuck
vehicle.
takes some time to get places sometimes.
Here's the right clip.
If the government shuts down, it will be average Americans who suffer most. A government shutdown means seniors who rely on Social Security could be thrown into chaos as the Social Security Administration limits certain services like benefit verifications or fixing errors in payments. Our veterans could see regional VA offices shut down.
He does this every time. I swear. By the way, he's the one threatening to shut the government down, for the record. He's the one. Right now, there are Democrat senators who are already defecting in the swing states. Already, Cortez Masto in Nevada is one of them. And then you have Chuckles here, who's reading from the phone book, sounding for all the world like the Visine drops guy. I'm just, again, the Democrat communication strategy truly is unmatched. And we haven't even mentioned the squad yet, because the squad was in full swing today too. But alas, we got to bring the radio crew back from their commercial break here in just a minute. This last bit is just for you. Right now, the Megyn Kelly crew, who apparently watches the show, I'm truly shocked by this one. They've got a live show coming up. Megyn Kelly's going on tour live. She has doubled down on this after the assassination of Charlie Kirk. A lot of questions as to whether people on the right were going to cancel their events. She said she's going to every one of them, might even schedule a couple more. They gave our audience access to tickets first. And because a lot of people with the Daily Signal crew purchased tickets, they gave us 20 free tickets to give away. So in the description of the show, there's a giveaway link. You can sign up to enter. All you have to do to qualify is you have to either like and subscribe and hit the bell, the little notification bell on YouTube, or do the equivalent on Rumble. Then in the giveaway link, you put that YouTube or Rumble name in, and presto, you're entered the giveaway. We'll announce the winners on Monday. We're going to head to the commercial break to pick up the radio crew. Don't go anywhere. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast.
It's the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Yesterday on the show, I mentioned the progressive strategy of sending out the young squad members out, the Ilhan Omar, the Rashida Tlaib, Pramila Jayapal. Whenever you bring out the squad, the youngest, the freshest members, the most socialisty members, the Zoran Mamdanis at some point, because you know that after he messes around with mayor, he's going to try doing Congress. So these fools, it wasn't a good idea to send them out yesterday in the House hearing with Kash Patel this week as well. They decided to send them all out again. So after Al Green, who's Al Green? You remember Al Green, the guy who shakes his cane, sort of goes, "That president with his dastardly deeds undone," who's filed like 6 different impeachment hearings. And I can't confirm this, but when he goes home at night, it is alleged he licks Waffle Houses on the way home. Al Green was shaking his cane and slandering Charlie Kirk today because there was a resolution that was put forward that condemns political violence. I know, crazy. All you have to do, all you got to do is say, yeah, political violence is bad. Charlie Kirk should not have been murdered. And his wife left a widow. That's all. That's all they had to that's all the resolution stated. Political violence is wrong. That's it. Well, wouldn't you know, again, the Senate did this unanimously. Everyone, every senator on the left, on the right, even Mazie Hirono, maybe she thought she was voting on the blue water buffalo, but even Mazie Hirono voted in the affirmative on the resolution. The House couldn't do it. 58 Democrats on the House side of Congress, 58 Democrats voted against a resolution to condemn political violence. Among these, of course, you have LaMonica body slam federal agents McIver. You, of course, have Ilhan Omar, who we're going to get to in just a second. And again, Rashida Tlaib, just the usual people, like Andre Carson here in Indiana. By the way, I know we're on the air in Indianapolis right now. This is one of the reasons why I wholly endorse redistricting in the state of Indiana. Andre Carson, and the human filth that he is, does not deserve a seat in Congress. So please, by all means, Governor Braun, go ahead with the redistricting. That said and aside, AOC, after Al Green shook his cane for a while, she took to the floor. She didn't need to take to the floor, but after all, the cameras haven't been on her for a couple of days, and she's kind of missing it. Here you go.
I thank Gentleman Representative Green for his graciousness.
As a quick aside here, just a little bit of advice from me to you to me here. If you have to thank Representative Al Green, you're off to a really bad start.
Today, the Republican House majority brought to the floor a resolution honoring the life and legacy of Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk's assassination was a horrific and vile attack and incident of political violence.
By whom, AOC?
And condemning the depravity of Kirk's brutal murder is a straightforward matter.
Why don't you condemn who did it, AOC?
One that is especially important to help stabilize an increasingly unsafe and volatile political environment where everyday people feel more at risk. We can deeply disagree and come together as a country to denounce the horror of this killing.
But 58 Democrats ended up voting no. Can we really come together for this?
And it is not a license for the abuse of power and whitewashing of American history.
Whitewashing of American history. You know, I've got a hunch that AOC is about to try to cite some history here. I'm looking forward to seeing how this goes.
Today's resolution only underscores the majority's recklessness by choosing to author this condemnation and honoring on a purely partisan basis.
Okay, she's very, very mad because, I'm going to mansplain this because, she's not getting around to it. She's upset that along with the condemnation of political violence, the resolution also said, and Charlie was a good guy who didn't deserve this. AOC does not like a piece of legislation saying that Charlie Kirk did not deserve what he got because she is on stage calling her opponents fascist Nazis who are coming to kill you. And the only reasonable move to fighting off actual fascist Nazis is with violence. She knows this. And yet she cannot bring herself to say that he did not deserve it. She'll condemn the violence itself because the cameras are on. She won't say he didn't deserve it.
Instead of uniting Congress in this tragedy with one of the many bipartisan options to condemn political violence and Kirk's murder, as we did with the late Melissa Hortman.
All Republicans, every single Republican in the House of Representatives voted in favor of condemning the murder of Melissa Hortman and her husband. Every single one of them.
Instead, the majority proceeded with a resolution that brings great pain to the millions of Americans who endured segregation, Jim Crow, and the legacy of bigotry today.
Here we go.
We should be clear about who Charlie Kirk was.
You're not going to show videos or like actual quotes. I bet you're about to paraphrase his entire legacy here.
A man who believed that the Civil Rights Act that granted Black Americans the right to vote was a mistake.
Okay. Historical analysis number one. I've said this before. There have been a lot of people who have suggested over the last couple of years that AOC, who used to be made fun of for saying there were only two branches of the federal government, that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was now a super serious threat in the next presidential election. I do think she's a serious threat, but they also, many of my colleagues who think that she's the best shot, I will make the case, she has not gotten any more intelligent. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has not read any more since the last time she got in front of a camera, nor the time before or before. She has not. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has done one thing and one thing only, provoke. That's it. And when she says that the Civil Rights Act granted black people the right to vote, that's just patently false. The 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution did that. Jim Crow laws, while horrible, and yes, did in fact limit the certain processes and procedures for integration into society. May I also point out that Charlie Kirk had no issue with that aspect of the Civil Rights Act. He stated clearly when talking about the Civil Rights Act, the problem that he had was language that then undermined certain levels of equality today. Essentially, what Charlie Kirk argued was that the Civil Rights Act should have been framed to be equal gendered, equally racial. He did not believe that he didn't encourage, he's very clear about it, he didn't encourage segregation. He thought the language in the Civil Rights Act should have been more in favor of equality. Go ahead, producer Nick.
I wonder if there's any famous Democrats who historically were against the anti-segregation acts. Maybe a recent president or somebody who served for quite a long time.
Maybe a man whose most famous quote is soda. Good question. We'll get to that in a bit because there's a particular individual from the Biden administration who has some thoughts on Antifa. We'll get there. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez continues.
Who, after the violent attack on Paul Pelosi, claimed that, quote, some amazing patriot, unquote, should bail out his brutal assailant.
I'm going to ask you a question here. Just a quick question here. Now, why didn't she put the entire statement Charlie said in quotes? Why not say, and I quote, amazing patriot should get him out of jail, end quote? Why not? I find that a little suspicious. Additionally, I would like to point out that regardless of the number of times that someone has stated very, very clearly that they think a crime and how it occurred is funny, maybe dark humor, that does not make them an evil person. Again, I'm very sorry to let you know that there are a lot of things in the realm of dark humor that occur that Paul Pelosi, not dead, Paul Pelosi under suspicion at the time of having some type of weird tryst individual over, where then things got out of hand and he smacked Paul with a hammer. There is an element of that is inherently comical, while also simultaneously, I can wish that Paul Pelosi get better. The left does not understand comedy at all, which is why they think that Jimmy Kimmel lecturing people is like peak pristine, ha-ha, funny laughter clapter. Radio crew, we have to send you over to commercial. We're going to continue on the live stream. It's the Tony Kinnett cast. I'll let her continue, and then we'll get to this Biden official and Antifa.
And accused Jews of controlling, quote, not just the colleges. It's the nonprofits, it's the movies, it's Hollywood, it's all of it.
He did not. He did not accuse the Jews of controlling everything. I'm so sorry to tell you that suggesting George Soros has influence and NGOs that are associated with George Soros have influence is not the same thing as saying Jews did it. This is a stupid line. It is a very, very stupid and incorrect line. And yet here she is yet again. Now, I do want to make this clear as well, by the way. We have made more than a few jokes about the case of Ilhan Omar. And I have to pay a certain level of credit to our friend Steven Crowder, whose reporting has in fact confirmed that Ilhan Omar, the representative from Minnesota, according to official marriage license applications and certificates ratified by the state of Minnesota, Ilhan Omar did in fact marry her brother.
Sweet home Somalia.
Now, I'm just saying that committing immigration fraud, committing mortgage fraud openly and abashedly, as it appears Letitia James and Adam Schiff have done, I'm just suggesting that openly committing crimes, and again, then either bragging about it as aldermen did, as the aldermen in Chicago did, or going the other way and saying, no, actually, it's Charlie Kirk who is evil. Not a smooth move. Not a smooth move. Although, again, as I said on Rob Carson's show today, I understand why Ilhan Omar despised Charlie Kirk because he's a Christian. Christians historically against incest. I get it. I understand the anger that one might feel. But alas, I'll move from that to one particular individual in the Biden administration named Megan Hayes. Now, again, I've talked about this at length on the show. Antifa being classified as a terror organization is a very good thing. Megan Hayes, who was the special assistant to the president under Joe Biden and the director of message planning in the White House from 21 to 22. This is what she had to say about Antifa this morning.
Let Megan jump in there. But also, how do you say who's an Antifa and who's not? So if I say that the president is a fascist, am I now an Antifa? Like I don't see the how do you do that? So now you're gonna have a lot of coming for you.
We're gonna roll a flag.
I know.
You,
but it's like I pay dues, I have a leader. But I mean, how do you decide that? And then you're gonna have a bunch of people who've been charged and ruin them financially because you've now charged them with things that they may or may not be a part of. It's sort of like white supremacists. How do you decide who is a white supremacist and who is not?
I mean, your office at the White House, Megan, your office decided who was a white supremacist if they were a person in a red hat smirking at a Native American. You guys had no issue coming out and saying that, well, Jussie Smollett said he was attacked. It's white supremacy. There's a rope tied in a funny shape in a NASCAR garage. That must be white supremacists. Amazing. No problem. But again, this is hilarious. They're making the case that Antifa is just like some kind of a political position, like being pro-life. They're just being anti-fascist. Okay. If you are going to make this claim, you are very, 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 very much fighting the uphillest of battles, but we'll have to bring the radio crew back from commercial and talk about that later because I've talked over the commercial time. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on The Daily Signal.
It's the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Closing. Jim Pfaff, I don't know if you are aware of the breaking news of great import, but you and we get a lot of PR emails. You know, the annoying, I don't know how these people get our email, but, you know, we're in media, so they send this to us. According to one of the PR emails, today, the U.S. Treasury released new rules for, quote, no tax on tips, which will exclude OnlyFans models from receiving tax relief on tips. Let me get your reaction to that.
Well, first of all, this is not one of those occupations that Mike Rowe is talking about when he says you don't have to go to college. So we'll make that very clear. But
there's so many dirty jobs puns that are popping in. I'm gonna move past that though. Thanks for dropping by again, Jim Pfaff, president of the Conservative Caucus. It's great to have you. Not only because you understand, you know, the conservatism that most of the country embodies, you know, deep down, but also because you also find joy in the little things like OnlyFans models. No tax on tips, not for you.
I don't find joy in OnlyFans at all, but I do find joy in them looking stupid on the public stage. That's for sure.
Amazing how that works. Now let's talk about some of the stuff on the public stage. You saw Rashida Tlaib doing her impression of the Tasmanian devil in the halls of Congress. Yes.
Wait, it's an impression? I thought she was the real deal.
And I think it's really important. We need to stand up against this fascist takeover. That's not a bad word. It's a fact. And here in D.C. and across the country, it is so incredibly important, Mr. Chair, that this committee does not allow rhetoric that defames and or paints Washington, D.C. in a way that you all haven't really truly seen. You're just reading it. No, you're just reading it or something off of some.
Will the gentlelady yield to a question?
Yeah, I think it's really important.
Will the gentlelady yield?
No, I don't yield. I don't even have time. I can tell you.
Your time's expired.
It is expired, but Mr. Chair, but you all live here, and you're not telling people the beautiful parts that you do see in our nation's capital. And no, it's just wrong how we're doing it.
Chairman, I think it's insane that the gentlelady doesn't have an argument, but she's going to refer to me and some of my colleagues.
Mr. Donald,
we were from the Third Reich. This is insane.
You're going to look at 14, 15-year-olds as a bunch of criminals?
It's insane. Do I look like a member of the Third Reich to you, Ms. Tlaib?
Please.
Is that what I look like to you?
You're the one taking your voting card.
Is that what you think? Is that what you think? Is that what you think?
No, that's unethical.
I think it's radical and I think it's insane. And I'll respect everything that you say. But to say something like that to myself and a lot of my colleagues is way out of line. It's way out of line. It's way out of line.
Regular order, Mr.
Way out of line.
Regular order.
That's okay. But it's okay, right?
That is not how it goes.
It's okay, right?
You hold yourself accountable before you talk about
Hold myself accountable. Hold your own self accountable. How about that? Hold your own self accountable. How about that?
Free DC and make sure you vote with your own voting card. Don't be giving it to somebody else.
All right, time.
Oh, I mean, well, I can't even do the mock serious because it really is quite true. I mean, it's embarrassing.
It is. And listen, she's doubling down, as every Democrat seems to be, on the whole fascist moniker. They're avoiding saying Hitler these days, you'll know, because they don't want to, quite push the envelope too much. Listen, and Byron Donalds was going right back at her in that hearing, and I think he was quite appropriate in what he did. It's interesting that Democrats want to keep pushing this button, which caused such great failure for them in the elections last year, particularly in getting Donald Trump elected. But now they're mocking the death of Charlie Kirk. And listen, I don't care what you think of Charlie Kirk or really anyone else. When someone's getting assassinated in a public appearance with frankly, a political bullet literally shot at you because of the etchings on the casings, you are absolutely appalled by that if you are a right-thinking human being. But these people are not right-thinking human beings. And it's one of the reasons, one of the many ones, that I say the Democrat Party is not an American party.
Producer Nick, go ahead and pull up that tweet from Sam Stein over at the Bulwark and NBC that, I think that these Americans, or these people, he said these people, they have really thin skin. And he, of course, is talking about those who are reacting with a little bit of vitriol towards the way that some have been acting about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And I was rather struck by the gaslighting that we've moved to immediately that, I think a lot of Americans are a little perturbed. Maybe they have been a little bit on edge seeing a husband and father being assassinated in broad daylight in front of a ton of undergraduate students and kids for being a conservative. Yeah, that sets people a little on edge, I would say.
Well, I was listening to a polling analysis by Mark Mitchell over at Rasmussen Reports today.
I heard Rob Carson talking about this morning, and I was going to ask you about it. What the heck is going on at Rasmussen this morning that's had everyone in a buzz?
Oh, I don't know what it is. And I happened to see his analysis of the polling, which is showing it's moving all the way back towards Trump again. There's more to do after the Charlie Kirk disaster, but they have polled after the Charlie Kirk disaster, and numbers are moving back Donald Trump's way. Now, listen, you don't want this to happen so Donald Trump's numbers can get back. I mean, it's horrible, but the effect of this is the Democrat reaction is not gaining traction with the American people and doing just the opposite, or at least initially, so it seems.
I will kind of elaborate on that just a smidge here and say, as I'm looking at some of the polling data now, looking it up as quick as I can here while we're talking, I also I don't think there's really anyone in the country that at least has a mentally sane goings about their daily life that would say this happened and that the right is doing what it is that they are doing in response now for the sake of polling numbers or anything like that. But it does, whenever there is some kind of a tragedy, whenever there is something that happens, and the response from the Trump administration is one of sanity, and the response of people like Jimmy Kimmel, and the response of the House Democrats and other, like we talked, Sam Stein, the journalist pundit class on the left, respond by acting like subhuman filth. And I want to make that clear. When I say subhuman filth, when you rant in the halls of Congress like an animal barking, I mean, I have heard the Chihuahua from Taco Bell give a more coherent lecture.
Yo quiero Taco Bell.
In civil discourse. It just so happens that Americans really start to understand yet again, because we kind of fade away after the big moments occur, that there really is only one section of the nation right now that is focused on sane principles and practices. And in a time of crisis, we got to pick between sane and the youthful, angry revolution. Gee, it's not even a choice, is it?
No. And by the way, the key difference between the right and the left right now is whether or not the responses to all the events, and obviously Charlie Kirk's assassination being the most recent among them, it's the difference between sanity and pure political operation. Listen, I'm not saying there's no political implication to what happened to Charlie Kirk, or that people are not going to take political actions after it. I mean, we have a political sphere that we're working in, and that is designed to set the stage for what our government will do in the authorities it's been given, or do beyond them, as they are generally doing. But the reality is that, again, the Democrat Party is not an American party. The Jimmy Kimmel reaction adds to this. These people are entirely out of touch with reality on the left. By the way, and Rasmussen's poll recently shows this as well, Democrat voters aren't buying into it either. I keep reminding people over this last week or so that tens of millions of Democrats voted for Donald Trump. It's one of the reasons that he got such a large popular vote in this last election. And so when I'm saying the Democrat Party is not an American party, I'm not at all talking about the voters. Their voters, except for, 25, 30% of them, do get what's going on. They're very real Americans who absolutely understand what's at stake in this country, even when there's disagreement and even when they might vote against the Republicans. But the Democrat Party is literally insane right now in its outlook on what's taking place in this country. And because of that, they're making all the wrong decisions that they are going to pay an electoral price for, particularly if Republicans ever decide to do what the American people want to do. The Americans are generally pleased with Donald Trump. They're not necessarily so generally pleased with the Republicans in Congress. So hopefully they're getting the message.
This brings us to the biggest hurdle that Republicans have, that really either party has, which is getting people to vote in the midterms. Because as I've often said, I'll say it more, going to vote is like going to the DMV with a head cold. It sucks. People like to say it's totally wonderful and easy and quick. Most often it's not. It's annoying. It's just an annoyance. It's like going to the post office on tax day. Why would you do that? And so the goal of a party is to say, you need to come out to get the candidate in question to, this candidate is worth you overcoming the DMV hurdle. And Republicans, it appears in response right now, Trump has announced that there's going to be some type of midterm Republican convention. I got to tell you, again, you're more in DC, you're in the polls, you see kind of conservatism from a 30,000 foot view here. A midterm convention, good idea, or just kind of a Cracker Barrel rebrand situation?
Well, in the current environment, I think it is a good idea. It's a double-edged sword, by the way, but it's a net positive when you
hold on. How so? How's it explain that to me?
I'll tell you how. Because it's a way for people to potentially rally around Trump's message, thinking about the midterm elections, when Republicans are not giving them any reason in Congress to do the same thing. Listen, the big, beautiful bill wasn't a disaster in every way. There were a lot of very, 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 very good things in it. But the net effect was negative in my mind. And it certainly was negative in the opinion of the American people. The polls had shown that. I mean, Rasmussen's numbers, and he was looking at the overall numbers, Mark Mitchell's numbers. He's seeing now some upticks taking place, but that's on the back end of a few situations that are taking place right now. Those numbers began to tank after the big, beautiful bill. Not because Trump's doing so poorly, but it's happening because people are not seeing Republicans as driving that agenda in total. So even though I think you can be a bit smarmy having a convention on,
I do love a good bit of smarm.
But the other effect is it can allow people to kind of get engaged again with the issues that matter. Now, I don't know if that's going to help Republicans the way it needs to going into 2026. The key factor will be, what will they do with this CR that's coming up? And what will they do with the next reconciliation bill? There'll be two more, actually, but this next one's going to set the stage of what Americans are thinking. They need to make massive cuts. By the way, if they will never likely make the cuts that I'd like to see, but if they went into the federal budget in reconciliation and got rid of every bit of NGO funding, I think that would be a very positive for Americans, because Americans know that that's funny money, that it's political money, and that it is used for nefarious purposes. The Republicans need to be substantial in their legislative action going into 2026 to have the best chance, but never underestimate the fact that it seems like Democrats are trying to grab grab defeat out of the jaws of defeat right now. Like they're doing this really poorly. Republicans have got to be careful, or they're going to grab defeat out of the jaws of victory, because everything is on their side right now.
I think that you're pretty spot on. Again, Jim Pfaff, president of the Conservative Caucus, love having you on. Loved getting a little bit of your perspective on this for just a brief moment here after a week that has felt both instantaneous and a month long.
Absolutely. And listen, I pray for Erica Kirk and their two beautiful young children. This is a tragic time. She's taking on the CEO chairman duties at TPUSA, but boy, she needs some grieving time still more. There's just no way you can get out of that. So this is going to be a challenging time for them leading into their big event coming up in October, but I do wish them well.
It's had a moment this week where I've watched a couple of the clips of them just talking to each other, and it hurts.
Oh,
it does still. And hope that those of you listening as well, that you get a little time this weekend to go to church, be among your fellow brothers and sisters in Christ. And I hope that you all have a wonderful weekend on that. Again, Jim Pfaff, thanks for hopping on, man.
Thanks, Tony.
All right, so just a couple of questions that I want to tackle before we head to that blessed and glorious weekend. First and foremost, there is, believe it or not, a story that I have yet to cover today. That is, there's just no other way to. We've got a couple of questions as to why we haven't covered this one. I had it in the notes, didn't make it into the final cover, but we got it here. According to Axios, who got first crack at this new book, Kamala Harris 107 Days comes out soon. I know you're excited. Boy, I'm excited. Woohoo. Her story of the fastest presidential campaign ever, she says, and how amazing and wonderful it was, and the joy and the dreams. Not a lot of joy apparently in it at all. It did not cometh in the morning as I was promised. This quote is beautiful. I think as Steve Guest said best, hang it in the Louvre. It really correct. I quote, "As Kamala Harris rushed to pick a running mate last year, her first choice was her close friend Pete Buttigieg, but she decided that it would be too big of a risk for a black woman to run with a gay man." Buttigieg, quote, "would have been an ideal partner if I were a straight white man," end quote. Harris writes in a passage of her soon-to-be-released book, 107 Days, that I saw, quote, "But we were already asking a lot of America to accept a woman married to a Jewish man. Part of me wanted to say, screw it, let's just do it. But knowing what was at stake, it was too big of a risk," end quote. Oh my dear sweet goodness. Moses in a basket down the Nile. Holy crap. So a couple of instant incredible takes here. First of all, holy crap, LOL. Because if you look at this based on the polling, for example, via Echelon, this proves yet again what I have said all the way back to Biden's administration. People in the LGBTQ plus 2IA whatever community are not popular with one demographic in this country more than any other demographic. Black inner city communities do not vote for gay candidates. They don't. They don't. I'm sorry. The voting data bears out more than any other demographic, more than Asian Americans, more than any community of Hispanic Americans. Black Americans do not vote for gay candidates. I'm sorry. Don't yell at me. That's the data. And here we are, Kamala Harris, making it very clear two things. Number one, Pete was too gay for her to choose as a running mate. LOL. That's pretty funny. Again, the Echelon poll that I'm referencing in recent polling shows that Pete Buttigieg has a current 0% support among Black Americans. 0%. That is who he is polling with Black Americans, 0%. He is also currently tied for the lead in New Hampshire, which is one of the whitest states in the union. But I'm pretty sure you have to have an AARP membership just to qualify to live in New Hampshire. White old people is all they got. Nothing wrong with white old people, but there's a special kind of them in New Hampshire. No offense to any New Hampshireans, Hampshirites, New Hampies who might be listening. So that's the first thing. Hilarious. Number two, it means that Tim Walz, Tampon Tim, the rough and tough football coach that doesn't know what a pick six is, war fighter stationed in Italy in the Cold War. Tim Walz, command super duper sergeant. He was her fourth pick. Her fourth pick for VP. So she didn't get who she wanted. She didn't get good old Josh Shapiro. She wanted Josh Shapiro, but he was too Jewish. That's from inside the campaign. And after all, the far left hates the Jews. Not going to get Josh Shapiro. She really wanted Wes Moore or Jared Polis, who told her no. They were like, nah, you're going to lose. So that means that after she lost Pete, after she lost the other two dudes that she wanted to go with, she stuck with Tim Walz. Holy crap. The guy who's now, doing his big, re-election bid as though he thinks he's super popular, relatable grandpa. I'm blown away by this. It's great. There is a little side note as to why this matters. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's campaigns, they hate each other. Now, neither of those two wings of the Democrat Party, the awkward DEI failing upwards class that's all about racialism, and then Joe Biden participating in the race segregation kind of corporate Democrats. Neither of those is the next generation for the Dems, which is why no one's excited for Kamala Harris' book coming out. Like, you don't see anyone doing Harry Potter book lines to hear Kamala Harris write about joy and mourning and whatever her estranged Doug Emhoff is up to. But at the moment, just to make things perfectly clear for the crew, the hyper progressives hate these people for a reason. This is why. This is why. They watched the Barack Obama hyper-racial crowd and the Nancy Pelosi corporatist crowd hack at each other over silly nonsense, and they consider this silly nonsense. I never feel sympathy for those on the left, but poor Ezra Klein and his little abundance movement, who wants a return to some corporate-y Democrat. That stuff's never going to happen. They are screwed over like an OnlyFans model. Anyway, all right, so that out of the way, just a couple of quick questions I did want to answer this week before we all shuffle off to our beautiful, long, restful home here. This one from Lori Wilson. She says, Tony, can you designate domestic groups as terrorists? I really don't know. And the answer to your question is, precedent is kind of unclear on this. Yeah, precedent's kind of unclear. Traditionally, designations like that are done via the law. And so Congress would originally be considered the organization to pass some kind of a bill like that. But post 9/11, some of those authorities were granted to the executive branch of government. There's not been a Supreme Court case that's ruled this. There's not even been a federal court case that has thrown this kind of a thing out. So Producer Nick and I have talked about this a lot over the last couple of days. I've had some other conversations with those inside the Daily Signal about this as to if an organization is declared a terrorist organization, in what sense and how far does that go? Now, either way, being declared a terrorist organization by the executive branch is at least a probable cause for arrest by law enforcement. Participation in terrorist activities. That's probable cause. And then also being in Antifa means that when you're arrested for, attacking a police officer, if you have the Antifa patch on your arm, that's what I was talking about earlier before we ran over on commercial time. Saying Antifa is not even an organization, a really uphill battle to climb because they have chapters. Like, they have chapters where they say, we are Antifa this county, we are Antifa this city, and they have the same logo. Really going to be difficult to suggest that you're not a part of something. There's like, you're part of this Discord and this group, you have membership in this. So those things all said and aside, I don't quite think there's precedent for this one yet. The answer really could go either way. You're likely looking at a federal case. Now, Congress could make this really easy by declaring Antifa a domestic terror organization or just a terror organization in general via a bill. I don't quite know the filibustering that would take place because you would have Fetterman would absolutely declare Antifa a terror organization. I think Cortez Masto might in Nevada. It would be an interesting one coming up on midterms. That might be something Trump forces through. Producer Nick?
I think for me, a more interesting implication is the possibility of other countries following suit, such as Hungary and the Netherlands having followed motion suit the day after today, making suggestions. The prime ministers, the lower house in Netherlands have suggested movement towards carrying out a similar labeling of Antifa as terrorist organizations as well.
I just want to see, again, I don't particularly know on that one slice of it. So I'm just being as transparent as we try to be on the show. There's your answer, even if it's not the world's most perfect answer. This next one is from Zurich, maybe in Switzerland, not quite sure. Asks if I believe yet, I like how he phrased this, do you think that Democrats are ready to stop being children yet for midterms? This was sent a couple of days ago, and I unfortunately have to tell you the answer is no. But not just at the national level. No. You can get the local level involved on this one too. Boston City Councilor Sharon Durkin took to the floor to complain that, I
am afraid that the conversation in the city of Boston has really gotten sort of that we've become a little bit desensitized to the conversation around safety. And I can tell you, I had a recent experience on a bike that has put me off of a bike for 2 months.
Whoa, some kind of experience that has put her off of a bike for 2 months. I'm honestly, when I was watching this, I was expecting she was hit by a bus, she was hit by a truck, she was hit by a beached whale. I'm not sure. Hit by something, you would think. To put you off of a bicycle for 2 months.
I was heckled. Someone behind me said, "You better move, you fat B word," behind me while I was biking in an area that did not have a protected bike lane. And I do need to share that there's a lot of trauma that people that are riding on two wheels feel in the city. And as we're reaching...
I'm sorry. I'm trying to remain very professional at the moment. It's very difficult. I had better not say anything, or AOC might suggest that I deserved it if something were to happen to me. But Democrats, ladies and gentlemen, someone called me fat. That means that I have stopped exercising for 2 months. Yeah, that'll show them. And the entitlements over bike lanes. If I truly was made the governor of Indiana before I annexed Southern Illinois and pushed Chicago into Lake Michigan, before I purged Gary with iron and fire, I would remove every single bicycle lane in the state. I hate bicycle lanes. But I'm amazed at the Democrats' passion to, again, continuing with the fat shaming. What is it? Just suburban white women's desperation to feel like a victim for everything is incredible. Producer Nick, please.
It's not the city planner's fault for not getting enough room laid out for the bike lane for her.
Scooby, one of our YouTube members, Scooby Jew, said, I hope the bike is okay. Okay. The other answer to your question is another clip we pulled this week that we didn't get the chance. So remember, Terry McAuliffe, Democrat governor candidate of Virginia, gubernatorial candidate. He lost his election when going up against Glenn Youngkin. He said parents should not have the power to be in charge of their kids' education. Guys, this is from like 2 days ago. The Democrats are still on this.
Okay, listen, I don't mean to be an asshole, but I will be when I need to be. Most of you are not qualified to be teaching your children, and I'm getting very concerned.
Oh no, a white liberal girl in a ponytail is getting very concerned. Somebody call the UN right now. Oh man, also, for those who are listening and not watching this incredible display of rational behavior, I'm gonna need people to get off of SSRIs like right now. Like you don't need to be on every kind of medication. Just losing your mind on camera. You can lose your mind on camera without the medications, and it's a still lost mind, but it won't. You don't have to do the Gavin Newsom hands while you're trying. Producer Nick?
How did you find the two ends of the spectrum in regards to human size for these videos?
Nick, I can't. Well, you know, we believe in diversity.
If you add and divide by two, they will become two normal human beings.
We at the Tony Kinnett Cast, we believe in diversity. And so I believe that if you have someone who is a little large, you need someone who is not a little large. It's just important. If we're going to talk about mental illnesses, body dysmorphia and anorexia both belong in the conversation. So we're going to get emails. Anyway, this is from Not So Slim Jim. Speak of the devil. I haven't heard you talk about any of the, I can't say that, any of the expletives in Indiana who are celebrating killing Charlie Kirk. What gives? Yes. Okay. So, I have been very careful not to list any of the individuals who I have seen on social media, including from my graduate school alma mater that I wasted money on 2 degrees at, with individuals who are openly celebrating the death of my friend, Charlie Kirk. And there's a very good reason why. 2 reasons, first of all. Maybe not 2 reasons. A reason and then a qualifier. The number one reason I haven't talked about it here on the show is because there's a lot of news, and I don't believe that me listing a number of individuals who have celebrated openly on their public social media with their first and last names displayed to everyone how happy they are to see a husband and a father assassinated in broad daylight for being a conservative. I haven't talked about those individuals on air because I'm doing it behind the scenes. Sometimes the best possible move is not for the conservative host to call for them to be fired, which I do believe that they should be fired. If I was dragged to the HR office in Indianapolis Public Schools for tweeting out, and I quote, "Rest in peace, Rush Limbaugh. He paved the way for so many of us," end quote. If I was suspended from IPS for saying, "Yes, we are teaching critical race theory," that's it. Then, yeah, I do think that, yeah, you celebrate openly the death of an individual. Yeah, you shouldn't be trusted with kids. Your boss doesn't have to employ you. It is much more effective at times for me to utilize the connections that many of you help keep me up on to send some of these messages to their employers, like some of my former faculty and administration at Ball State University. So to the young obese lady who was canned from Ball State University's health department, have a very nice time in the unemployment line. The comments you made were ridiculously heinous. So those things said, this is the qualifier. I am all for individuals who have openly celebrated or who call for the murder of people. If their employers don't want to employ them, Yeah, they shouldn't keep their job. You make a decision to go on social media and post under your real name on social media, especially if you're a teacher or a nurse. Those are public-facing jobs. Say, well, wait a minute, that's a double standard on cancel culture. Okay, if you can't tell the difference between rest in peace Rush Limbaugh or I don't think women are men and I'm glad he died and I hope more die, I don't really know what to tell you, Chief. There was this idea for a long time that generalized society policed itself. If you walked out of your house in 1955 in a bright red thong and went to go read to some kids, you got a visit from some local dads. If you got in the newspaper and you put in print a bunch of nasty, obscene language, that newspaper might get a visit from the local police because it's considered obscene behavior, things that aren't really befitting. The First Amendment guarantees you the right to say what it is that you want without government prosecution, as long as it doesn't incite violence, as long as it's not obscene in public, like in front of children. Like you can't go read, some of Eminem's finest raps to children. That's on the light end of the scale, obviously. But still, aside from those, do I think that someone saying, I don't like Republicans should get them fired personally? No. Do I feel bad about those who have said half of the country is evil and they deserve to die? Like 3 weeks ago before Charlie was assassinated, do I feel bad about their posts being shown to their boss? No, I don't feel bad at all. I don't. My tweets were showed to my employer. Again, you can post under an anonymous name if you want. If you choose to go out as your own self and say, I hate 50% of the country. I wish they would die. They are fascists. They need to be killed. And your boss is like, a lot of Republicans shop here. Maybe I don't really want that talking to my customers. Or parents are like, wow, you think we should die. Maybe I don't want you teaching my child or giving care to my grandparents. After all, we see the news reports where the nurse was like, well, yeah, I took all their medications away because he had a Trump hat. And so, I treated him poorly. Or, well, I didn't give them FEMA aid because they had a Trump sign in the yard. That was policy. I just don't care. Shucks. I very much understand the caution that is often given. Using the hammer of the government is a very serious thing. I agree. This isn't the hammer of the government. This is the mob. This is the public making a decision. And when you say mob rule is a dangerous thing. It is one of the reasons why I don't like populism as a strategy, like as a procedure. However, sometimes populism, the will of the people, is a good thing. If you so happen to have a house that is on fire and a crowd of people desire the fire department to pay attention to the burning house, that's a form of mob rule. They say, hey, you got to get over here. You organize people together to start passing buckets, is always depicted in old movies, people passing the water bucket. That is a form of mob rule that is defending a moral good, addressing the concern right then and there. I'm sorry, a mob standing up and saying, you cannot be a drag queen in front of children, that is a good example of mob rule. If there is a person stabbing someone on public transportation and the crowd of people stands up and they beat the living F out of the guy stabbing the young blonde girl, that's a good use of mob rule. I'm sorry, there are common sense morals in society. You all know what they are because it makes you uncomfortable when you see them. And just because someone finds some kind of hedonistic pleasure in screaming, I want half the country dead, and they giggle and they jump and they scream in yippee glee, running through a university's campus in Texas, saying, I hope he's dead, I hope all of you are dead. If there's a person on the subway who is dressed in really weird clothing, who is mimicking an air like a gun, pretending to shoot everyone else on the subway, I'm sorry, I just don't believe that I really care if someone contacts your employer about the way that you act in public that is really gross and disgusting. Because we all know what's really gross and disgusting. And pretending, well, I respect all speech, yes, is the same kind of person who, when they are kneeling next to you in their own guillotine, as the blades are about to fall, like, boy, yeah, these leftists are sure taking a pretty extreme political approach, huh? Blades come down. I just don't care. Sorry, the cards are where they are. Kamala Harris promised to pack SCOTUS. Kamala Harris promised to add states to the union and permanently shift the balance of the Senate. The Biden administration openly blackmailed Facebook. Again, when people start getting debanked, like Melania Trump was debanked, when people start getting their wives' underwear drawers rifled through, when people start getting locked up and thrown in a hole for trespassing, yeah. Okay, from that side of the aisle, yeah, call me then. So, those things said, you guys have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. We'll see you on Monday. Don't forget, the giveaway is over on Sunday night. We're going to count those submissions up right before the Tony Kinnett cast on Monday at 7. So if you want tickets, free tickets to Megyn Kelly Live, link is in the description. Take care. This is the Tony Kinnett cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated and first on 93 WIBC.